we would like to welcome astronaut Randy Bresnik to Ciencia Virtual. The EcoExploratorio Museo de Ciencias de Puerto Rico welcomes you, Mr. Bresnik. Very nice to meet you. Hola, ¿cómo está?
Está bien. ¿Y tú?
Muy bien, muy bien. So you are in Houston, Texas now?
I am in Houston, Texas, in my house, in my home studio, as you can see behind me.
Yes, we are all in our houses, as you know. So this week, we are celebrating Space Week at EcoExploratorio, and we are honored to have you in this virtual platform. Did you ever had a dream of becoming an astronaut, or is that something that happened later in your career?
It's a good question. I mean, I grew up in Santa Monica, California, in a place where, you know, we had a lot of opportunities and ideas and things like that. But for me, we were a kind of a lower middle class kind of family on the south side of Santa Monica. And it wasn't something that I ever thought was really possible. It was something that was fascinating. I thought it was amazing. I built models of spacecraft. I watched, love science fiction, but I never thought that little old me could do it. You know, I was just a skinny kid growing up in Southern California. And so it was a journey along the way where I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to go to college from the Marine Corps. And then from there, I was able to get my degree in mathematics and a minor in political science, and then go on to become a pilot in the Marine Corps and fly an F-18s. I mean, what a dream that was. And then from there, I was able to go to Top Gun in our weapons school and become a really good F-18 pilot. So I was able to apply and become a test pilot. Wow, now I'm doing stuff like John Glenn and Chuck Yeager and things like that. And then, the opportunity presented to apply to be an astronaut. And I couldn't believe the fact I was even qualified, let alone that they would want to talk to me. And once I got an interview, I thought, okay, well, if that's all it is, then I've done, I've reached the pinnacle. Then to be selected, it's been so humbling because you know that there are just as many people qualified as you out there that they could have chosen, just for some reason, they chose you. So it's been a really fortunate journey. And that's why I love this job and being able to share those experiences from that journey with people, because there are certainly little Randy Bresniks or like my classmate Joe Acaba out there, because Joe Acaba grew up in Southern California as well. And so we both have that shared history of skinny kids from Southern California growing up, become astronauts, and then we end up flying together in space.
So we have a mutual friend, Joe Acaba, Joseph Acaba, is a Puerto Rican descent astronaut, and you flew in space. You flew together to go to the International Space Station, right?
Yes, we started out as classmates in the Class 19 astronaut class in 2004, and we've been together ever since. In fact, we were doing training in the wilderness of Wyoming, the National Outdoor Leadership School. We were tent mates back then. He used to be in the Marine Corps. I'm a retired Marine, so there's a lot of commonality there. So we grew up in Southern California together, and then Expedition 53. From August until December of 2017, we were in space together, and it was really neat. I remember taking one picture. He was excited to get pictures of Puerto Rico when he was up there. And there's one neat picture where I was taking a picture of him up in the cupola. He's got the camera, and out the window you can see Puerto Rico. And so I know that was one of the pictures that he cherished a lot.
And I know that our flag was at the cupola as well, right?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you. So how, when you were a kid, what did you like to study? Did you like science and math?
I liked science and math because it turned out that my brain, I like to figure out how things worked. That was interesting to me. I struggled mightily with English, and things like that, where I was trying to interpret what the author was saying and these other things that just wasn't the way that my brain was interested or wired. And so that's why, math and physics, engineering, I built my own car. I got a 66 Mustang in my garage that I got when I was 18 years old in Southern California. And I learned how to rebuild the engine, the transmission, do the body work, and all that kind of stuff. That's what interests me. And so certainly if kids, that's something that interests you, building stuff, whether it is Legos or Minecraft, engineering and mathematics and science, hard sciences, biological sciences. These are all things that are good for, things you want to consider, because that's maybe the way that your mind thinks. That's where you're going to find happiness and interest and things you want to study in school.
So once you were accepted to the Astronaut Academy, how was that training process?
That's about 1.5 to 2 year process, and we've continued to improve it every class we've had. Where you come in as backgrounds. Joe Cabo was a teacher. He had been in the Marine Corps. He had been in the Peace Corps. He had been a math and science teacher in high school. I came in as a Marine Corps test pilot. I didn't know anything about astrophysics and orbital dynamics and spaceships and environmental control life support systems. And so you go through a basic training, kind of like when you go to college. You have certain classes, you get through the classes, you take an exam, and then you're qualified. And so we had to get qualified on the space shuttle, we had to get qualified on the space station, flying the robotic arm, getting in the spacesuit and doing spacewalks. All those things you have to get qualified for at a basic level, kind of like a bachelor's degree, before you can be qualified as a full-fledged astronaut eligible for assignment for a space flight. Once you complete that, then you start doing ground jobs throughout the astronaut office that are required to make sure that the astronauts that are flying in space have what they need. So we have an ISS branch, we had a shuttle branch. Now we have a commercial crew branch. We have an exploration branch for Orion and the space vehicles of the future. And so working in those branches, you do the groundwork and the operational work and things that are required to keep people flying while you're still doing the training to continue to be proficient and current to be able to be assigned for a space flight. Now, when you get assigned to a space flight, then there's a specific training flow for exactly your mission, for what you're going to be doing in that time frame, on that vehicle, with those science experiments and that technologies. And so a shuttle flight was about 1 year worth of training where you focus just on that mission. That's like a master's degree. And then for space station missions, you're up there for 6 months, or Christina Cook, who just got back 328 days, or Scott Kelly, who did 340 days, where you're doing everything. There's the science, there's the glove box, there's the flammability stuff, there's the biological sciences, there is the growing. Joe was up there, he was our botanist, he was growing lettuce up in space. So there's all the science. Then you have to be the plumber, the electrician. You got to go out and do the spacewalks. You got to be the one that takes care of cleaning the toilet. You got to be able to take care of the laundry. All the visiting vehicles that come, you have to be able to capture them with a robotic arm and send them away. It is just a myriad of tasks. So that's kind of like the PhD, because you got knowledge everywhere and have to be able to do anything at a moment's notice.
How was the experience of the first time that you actually flew and then you went into the International Space Station? Tell me a little bit about this space environment and what it was like to feel the force of launch and all the details related to those moments.
Well, I'd say it's a lot like being a kid. So take, for example, say you're a kid in Puerto Rico and you've got your town that you live in. And then maybe at some point your parents, you hop in the car or get on the bus and you go to San Juan. And all of a sudden your little town becomes, wow, this big, huge city. Well, then you're able to see, the beautiful harbor and the coastline, the water, and you're going, okay, wow, this is a lot bigger than what I thought it was. And then, maybe you take a drive all the way around the perimeter of Puerto Rico and you see how big the island is. Well, imagine, being on Earth and even being a pilot. And I'd flown all around the world. Everywhere I went, the horizon was like this. And so after 8.5 minutes on the Space Shuttle Atlantis on STS-129, we burn out and burn the solid rocket motors. We burn the shuttle main engines. And then 8.5 minutes later, we're doing, 17,500 miles an hour. We get up and able to look out the front of the window. And all of a sudden, my horizon went from this to this. And so, right now, all of you guys can take and extrapolate with your, brain and eyes that this curve, you figure out, your brain goes, oh, the circle's only that big. And to be a human being, and also now the whole planet is finite. And then you go around it in 90 minutes. It seems very small. It's very humbling. It really takes a bit to wrap your mind around it, and it's absolutely beautiful. And then being able to go from being in the space shuttle at that point, and then going up to the space station, where all of a sudden you have a place like a 4-bedroom house, and there's all these other people, and there's so much more work and experiments and all that. It is just a wonderful thing, and it's the neat part is it's people from different countries all working together on one mission, to further humanity's exploration in space. It's really, really neat and very special in our time. And it's great that there's nobody under 20 years old that has had a moment of their lives where there's not been somebody up in space on the space station.
That's amazing. So how long were you in space after the STS-129?
STS-129 was 11 days. And then I was up on the International Space Station for expeditions 52 and 53 in 2017 for 139 days. So I'm one of the slackers in I've only got 150 days in space.
So that's almost 6 months,
yep.
Right? Wow. So you did spacewalks, you did science experiments. What kind of work did you do while you were in there?
Like I mentioned before, it's a little bit of everything. We have to keep our bodies in good shape to be able to ward off the fact that our muscles are not being used as much as they are on Earth. And so our bone density starts to go down. So we have to exercise a lot to keep our bone density up. So that's 2.5 hours of the day. Then we've got a whole schedule of maintenance, cleanup, and then the science part all throughout the day, every day. One of my favorite experiments was one where we were doing work and growing actually lung tissue in our glove box in microgravity, because tissue and cells and protein crystals all grow perfectly because there's no gravity to pull down on them and make them fracture and not have a perfect structure. And this particular experiment was really neat because we're growing lung tissue and a cancer-fighting drug that basically allowed the cancer, we called it, Jack Fisher, fellow astronaut, called it the cancer-seeking missiles. And it would actually go after the cancer cells instead of the actual lung tissue. Whereas right now, chemotherapy goes after killing all the tissue, hopefully getting the cancer cells dead before it ends up killing the patient. And so that was special to me because my mother, had breast cancer and liver cancer and brain cancer. And so that's one of the things that was really neat.
So there's so many things that NASA can do from the microgravity environment to bring other things that would make our life much easier and more health. How do you see NASA is improving our quality of life with what they're doing at the International Space Station?
Well, a lot of the work we're doing, as I mentioned before, has to do with bone loss. Right now, I'm standing up here, talking to you guys, and all the muscles in my leg are all constricting, and they're supporting the entire weight of my upper torso and my head. And that is putting pressure on the bones, and therefore the bones figure out that they have to have a certain amount of density. Up in space, my legs are not doing anything unless I exercise with them. They're just floating around and knocking things off the wall. And so therefore the bones start to atrophy. So if there's not as much tension on the rubber bands of the bones, then the bones themselves actually start to lose bone mass. And it's just like someone with osteoporosis. So we found out, not only the diet, the vitamins, the exercise, all those types of things that are allowing us to maintain our bone mass. We're also doing experiments up there on bones and to be able to figure out, and be able to send back samples and things like that to determine, are there other things we can be doing to people to be able to make them not lose the bone mass? Because guess what? If we don't lose bone mass on the space station, then that is directly relatable to being able to help older people as they age not lose the bone mass in their bodies and make their bones more fragile and susceptible to fracture, like people with osteoporosis.
So how long has the International Space Station been in orbit? For how many years?
We are celebrating 20 years of continuous human presence in space aboard the International Space Station. That's just absolutely amazing. 2 decades.
So the Space Shuttle mission ended almost 9 years ago, and now we're very excited because this week another crewed mission will depart from Cape Canaveral. Are you excited about that?
Very, very excited about that. I was the last person out of the Space Shuttle Atlantis, strapping in and checking out the crew of STS-135 on that July mission in 2011. And to have it be the fact that it's 9 years later, we're very thankful and very excited about it. The funny thing is Doug Hurley was the pilot of STS-135, a fellow Marine like myself, and he's the commander of DM2, that SpaceX mission coming up here in a few days. And so I know he's very excited and looking forward to this. And just the fact that we've got this new capability, the fact that we've got the Crew Dragon from SpaceX and the Boeing Starliner coming online, not one, but two American space vehicles that are able to take people up to orbit in the International Space Station. That is a great capability we've been a long time coming, and so we're very excited to see that launch.
How are we preparing now for the Artemis mission, returning the humans to the moon?
Well, Artemis is going forward to the moon and then on to Mars, and so it is. We've selected 3 companies. Think of that. When Apollo went to the moon, there was no space industry. They had to create the space industry, and there was one company that could build lunar landers. Our space industry right now is so vibrant, so there's such a wide breadth of companies to build Artemis lunar landers. And so that was the final piece of the whole architecture. We've got the SLS, the Space Launch System, the world's largest rocket. It's going to take the Orion capsule and get it off of Earth and put it on a trajectory towards the moon missions. We've got the ground systems, the exploration ground systems that are there at the Kennedy Space Center. That's the mobile launchers and all the facilities on the ground and the Launch Control Center and all the people there that make it so we can get to those launches. We've got the landers, the 3 that I mentioned, that'll allow us to meet up with the Orion space capsule in lunar orbit and then go do the 2024 first woman next man on the moon. And then there's going to be the Gateway Space Station, International Space Station, taking our international partnership of the past 20 years in low Earth orbit on the International Space Station and moving that into low Earth orbit where the Gateway will be. And that will allow missions after 2024 to be able to send up a lander to dock with the Gateway and then have Orion come up to the Gateway. And then crews will transfer from Orion onto the lander. What will that do? It allows us to hit other points on the lunar surface. It'll allow a lander to come back up after a mission, stay on Gateway, get refueled, get refurbished, get restocked, and be reusable. And that's how things are going to be a lot cheaper and allow us to do more exploration. Because you guys wouldn't hop in an airplane, go fly to, say, New York City and throw the airplane away. You'd want to be able to use it again. So that's what we're working to do with spacecraft.
What do you think are the major challenges then that NASA and the space industry will face in the near future to get this started, and up and running?
I think, the things that matter most is that we have the technical capability, number one. And certainly by the fact that we're able to select 3 companies, the technical capability absolutely exists. We got to have the national will to do it. We got to have the people interested in making this a priority. Right now, NASA's budget is less than 0.5% of the United States budget. I mean, it's pennies on the dollar, or, I think there's some estimation it's about $58 per taxpayer a year. And normal times, that's about 1 tank of gas. That is all we are spending on our space program and our future. So it isn't much at all. So the last part is the will to do it. And that, really is the funding. Because the people can say they want it, the administration can say they want it. If Congress doesn't fund it, then no bucks, no Buck Rogers, as they say. And so we've got the funding now. Everything's in place. We're rolling forward, at full speed with all the pieces of the puzzle, as I mentioned, that allow us to do a moon landing. Now we just need to make sure that our folks in Washington fund the process as we go through the next few years.
I was at NASA Michoud and NASA's tennis in December, looking at the Artemis rocket, and it was amazing. I mean, it takes a lot of infrastructure, but a lot of great minds behind this, a lot of passion, a lot of will to get this going. And how can we inject some of this passion to the children that will be part of this moon exploration program and Mars exploration program in the future? What can we do right now to make sure that this is long lasting?
I mean, that is a great question, because that is, if I'm doing my job right, I'm training my replacement. I don't want to do my job, with the passion and effort and invest my life in it, to have nobody come along behind and pick up that torch and run with it. And so that's why, I'm speaking to you guys now. That's why, we have active social media, because I know that's a way to communicate with our young people. We certainly have to do a good job as parents, as teachers, as government officials, as people that operate our museums and our science centers. Get people in the doors, because you never know what spark it is that's going to take a child And whether it is trying to become a space botanist or a rocket scientist or a astronaut or a flight controller or a space psychologist or a space nutritionist, we need all these different disciplines and all these people excited about our little planet and going out beyond it, because we're just making more and more people. And at some point, we want to be able to go and be more than just a single planet species. And so we have to do a really good job of sharing the message in our daily conversations. If you're at home, sitting there, this launch coming up, tell your kids, have them come over, watch the TV, have them read the stories, learn about the astronauts that are going up on it, the ones that are risking their lives on this first flight of the Crew Dragon. They're just regular people who have get an opportunity to do something really amazing. But it also took tens of thousands of people to get them to that point where they can ride that rocket, whether it's NASA people at the launch site, whether it's SpaceX people that designed the rocket and built it and are launching it from the launch site. There's just so many people everywhere that are involved. We say, come learn about it, and again, come join us.
We're committed to space exploration education. Actually, we have a partnership now with the Challenger Center, and we have this NASA grant for, it's called Isla Center, this innovative space learning activities center for the EcoExploratorio Science Museum. What message would you give to the team of the Science Museum so that they can keep excited about what they're doing and to see the result of all of this into moving forward a STEM generation?
Well, to the folks of the Science Museum, first of all, thank you. The fact that you have this passion to be able to share what is out there in science, no matter what the field or what the endeavor, that is, good for humanity, because you've been interested in whatever you've done in your life and the experiences you've gotten, you bring to the table and you're able to share with people. Now, our target audience is that young set of young people out there, the ones that, look up into the sky and dream, the ones that maybe go out there and use the Spot the Space Station app to see the International Space Station fly over their homes. Knowing that astronaut Joe Acaba, Puerto Rican descent, has been up there now twice. It's been over 300 days in space above Puerto Rico. Are they the next Joe Acaba? Are they the next, Jim Bridenstine, NASA administrator? Are they the next, Nobel Prize winner for physics or biology or chemistry? You never know what one encounter with one child will change their life. And by getting them into your science center and taking the time to talk to them, and the love and effort that you invest in the exhibits and the displays that you have, that will have untold effects. And don't doubt for a moment that your work is not powerful, because skinny kids like me growing up in Southern California went to places like that, and look at where I am now.
I always wonder what it's like for you to be an astronaut and then here on Earth, and at night you can see the International Space Station going over your house. What kind of feelings do you have when that happens?
It's special because now I've been there. I mean, I know a lot of the folks who work at NASA and friends of mine that they go up there and they'll send me an email. Hey, I saw the space station, whether they're in Virginia or other places. And so that's neat. It's neat to think that, okay, I mean, I know the people that are up there. They're my friends. I've worked with them for years, and to know that I have that connection with it. But even more special is the fact that I spent time up there looking back and seeing the places that I grew up, the places where my family is, the places that I are part of my history. And that's the part that really is so humbling as a human being, to be able to have that opportunity. Where something like 562 humans have only ever been to space. I mean, we need to make so there's 565 people a day riding up into space. That's our goal. That would be our desire. So everybody can have this feeling of going around the planet in 90 minutes. And then 90 minutes later, the Earth has rotated again. And so guess what? You got a new view 90 minutes later, or the lighting's different, or the weather's different. And so the planet is constantly changing, constantly giving you a new, beautiful view of itself. And one thing that people can do, if they haven't ever seen this video, is if you Google NASA Sound of Silence. It's a video that my crew and I, we took those pictures of that video and got permission to use a particular song, Sound of Silence. and it gives you an emotional feeling as you watch that, because we can all watch videos and pictures, and it entrances us. But to have music give you a feeling, that's what we try to convey to you guys and get you as close to space as we can right now until we can fly you there. And so that might be something you guys, can set up with the Science Museum, as having a TV playing that, because that's something that just catches everybody's eyes, because it's your planet and you're part of it down there, and everything in human history is right down there in this little beautiful blue marble that's out third planet from the sun.
We were hard hit with Hurricane Maria, and we are trying to build resilience through STEM education, and now with the aerospace education. How do you think that we can keep the enthusiasm for more economic development in Puerto Rico, given that we also have an aerospace industry, and we also need more children to get into these careers so that we can promote more resilience and also more economic development? What do you recommend?
Wow, there's a lot there. I mean, whether it is, I think of resilience, I think about, being able to manage supply chains and have, emergency preparedness. Well, that takes engineers and people to plan, and planners to be able to do that. And that takes, that's an education field for students. If it's engineering on building facilities and buildings and shelters and houses, even, that you're able to engineer in more capability to withstand hurricanes and storms. Because it's certainly the Caribbean is a normal path for these storms come later in the summer and in the fall. That's a field that, if that interests you, on making sure that we can build houses and buildings that can withstand these incredible storms, that's another great field for kids to study and be passionate about and be able to help the people of Puerto Rico. And then obviously the aviation industry. I mean, there's so much out there, and yes, we're at a lull right now of air travel because of the virus, but that will end, and the life will get back to the world we knew, and we'll be able to manage things like that and get back to traveling and seeing the world, and having more of an airline industry and more of an aerospace industry allows us to move people as well as go explore other places. And then certainly, hopefully the work that you're doing in the Science Museum relating to NASA and space, and what we're doing at NASA, is related to whether or not it is actually flying humans exploring other planets, or it's coming up with the satellites that can be able to see the hurricanes and be able to look at them and model them better, to be able to give people more warning, to be able to prepare for storms and things like that. That would be another field that they can go into. So there's just so many areas that people can get educated on and come back and invest back into Puerto Rico and the people there to make their lives better. That it's wide open, I think.
Do you have any final message for the people of Puerto Rico related to space exploration and protecting planet Earth?
Well, I guess as a final message, I would say, the people of Puerto Rico, I've been there. I've enjoyed your beautiful island. I've more enjoyed it from space, to be able to see its perfect location there in the Caribbean, the beautiful water surrounding it, the beautiful lush, forests and hills of it. Be able to take a picture of San Juan Harbor and see the fort there at the harbor, from space. Be able to be up there on the International Space Station with Joe Acaba, who has a proud heritage as a Puerto Rican. It's part of my history, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that we get to have you as part of the United States and join us in our efforts to make and explore space. In fact, we have all the pieces to be able to go explore the moon and beyond. And who knows where the next Joe Acaba is. And I'd like to think that they're out on the island right now in school and getting really excited and dedicated and motivated to go ahead and follow that dream. But also the other folks that want to come to NASA at Houston or Kennedy Space Center or Michoud or Stennis or Ames or Langley, we could use all of you. And so please continue to support our space program. Tell your elected officials that you think this is important, and we'll get to the moon and go to Mars here in the next couple decades.
Well, we are so proud to have you in this interview, and the invitation is open for you to come back to Puerto Rico when the time comes. I hope that in the near future, and thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to speaking to you more in the near future. Thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I look forward to coming back And there were actually, we had a plan after our flight in 2017, we were doing 2018, come visit Puerto Rico with Joe Acaba as part of our post-flight experience. So hopefully next time I can come on back and come back with him. We give him the official nickname of the Emperor of Puerto Rico. So
that's a good nickname. Thank you again,
yeah,
Astronaut Bresnik, and bye-bye.